This is Lake Ann Pass. And still some sizable snow here. There's talk of a cornice. I think the way to go around is that way. And we'll see what we see. May not be a problem at all. Not sure which mountains these are. Well, this is to record the events of the 2nd and 3rd of July, what I will call the days without electronics. Although obviously I'm recording it later. The situation was set up when I left Monarch Pass. I didn't have a full day in town. Actually, when I was in Salida, I was unable to even plug in my electronics at all. It was only at Monarch Pass where I tried to top up my backup battery, my phone, my Garmin, a few other things that I have, my headlamp. And I found I couldn't do that well at Monarch Pass. The transformers were just heating up, and they were only providing not a quick charge, but a sort of a trickle charge. So when I left Monarch Pass, I was probably no more than 50% on any one device, and it was difficult to tell what the level of charge was on my backup battery. It has 4 dots, and like 2 of them were lit up. So I figured, well, I have about half a charge on there. Now it's a big battery. It is 20 milliamp hour battery, so it's a sizable brick. But for one reason or another, the charge seemed to evaporate from that battery, and I found myself having to not really take much video at all, not take many photos, keep it in the airplane mode all the time, and many times also completely powered down. So here were my observations from having to do that. First, I had to record on the emulsion of the mind the scenery, not just taking a quick snapshot and going, oh, isn't that nice, and taking a picture and then just moving on. I found myself having to absorb the beauty of the Apostle Mountains, for example, or the Lake Ann Pass, or Lake Ann, and Hope Pass, the last one before moving into Twin Lakes. I found myself sort of pondering over the delicacy and subtlety of the columbine blossoms, and found myself having to store them in the chamber of the heart labeled joy. So there were some good things that came from not having those electronics. Still, I did have to be a little more logical about things. I had no GPS. I wanted to ensure that I could communicate, that I didn't exhaust the battery, for example, in my Garmin, should I face an emergency situation. But I basically had about a day and a half where, for good or ill, and a little bit of both, I had to do without electronics on the CDT. Now, fortunately, in this portion of the CDT, the trail is very well maintained, and it's fairly well marked and traversed by other hikers, so I could stop and ask directions, sort of old school. But that was sort of why you're not going to see much in the way of video from the 2nd or 3rd of July. It was great scenery, but you're going to have to take it on trust. One of the major objective when I went into Twin Lakes was to charge up my batteries and on my phone and on my backup battery. And I was pretty successful, but once again, it wasn't as fast as I would have liked. And I think it has to do with how many other devices are plugged into a power strip and things like that you have to share. So trying to find some good from having to do without the modern backpacking convenience of having electronic devices for all your navigation and photography and everything else.